Hey guys, Dr. Ashley here. Hope you're doing well. I today am talking about how I paid off my med school loans because I'm coming up on a funny little anniversary. It's been almost 5 years since I paid off my loans for college and med school. There's all the zeros. I really love this picture. They got sold a bunch of times, but those were the last five. So anyway, um, Sally Mae actually sent me an email when I finished paying these loans off, and they were like, "How did you pay off your loans?" And I was like, "I just, sent checks and paid them off. Like, what do you? I don't know." So I've been thinking about it a little bit more lately. My Bible study has been talking about finances. I'm getting ready to speak at a conference about finances in a couple of months. So just been kind of thinking about kind of how I put everything together biblically and how I put everything together, just practically speaking, when it came to my financial life so far. So, um, yeah, how did I pay off my loans? So, to be clear, I did go to a pretty expensive school. It's much more expensive now. One thing I noticed when I was in med school was that the bill was going up by $2,000 a year. And I was like, "That's a weird maybe it's just a weird fluke and it's gonna stop now." But no, it has continued to increase by $2,000 a year. So, based on what the medical students told me this last summer, it has continued to increase by 2,000. So I wasn't as bad off as students are these days. But yeah, med school was about $30,000 a year, and undergrad was pretty close to the same, and that doesn't include, like, housing and lab fees and all that jazz. So yeah, so I was looking at when it's all said and done, I think the total cost of my education in my head at least was like $290,000, like minor detail, just write a check and pay it off, right? No big deal. So how practically do you kind of deal with loans when you're looking at something like this? I had kind of initially read Dave Ramsey's book. Sorry, I thought I had it sitting there, but Dave Ramsey's book on finances. That was the first book I ever read, and he hates loans and he hates uh like any kind of debt whatsoever. And so he basically is just like, no, don't get a debt for school, just like go to your state school, go to your community college and like work a job. And I'm sitting here like, what job do you think I could have worked as a high school graduate with no degree that would have paid me $290,000 to save so that I could go to medical school? I would have been like 60 by the time I actually started going to medical school. It would have been a crazy and wild journey, but I don't think it's realistic for someone who's going into a profession like ours. You got your lawyers, you got your doctors who are going to make the money back. So you just got to kind of make wise decisions and realize yes, it is a heavy investment, but sometimes you just got to do it. I don't think it's realistic to tell people not to. And the other example would be everyone always says things like, go to your state school, go to your community college. Yeah, my state school cost the exact same as Vanderbilt. Like it wouldn't have made any difference if I had gone to my state school. So yes, there are a lot of people out there that say just don't get loans. That is one way to not have them. But when you're starting at the beginning, I think I started with saving, right? Like I started saving money for college well before college. I would work jobs during the summer. I didn't work a lot during the school year. I worked at McDonald's for a couple of months and then their hours were getting crazy. So I stopped. But yeah, I mostly concentrated on getting good grades and doing lots of extracurriculars so that I could get into a good college. So that was really kind of how I was going about things. So I did save some for college. And when you're getting ready to go to college, they do like ask you how much do you have saved? And just to let you know, that will be deducted from your however much you have saved. I had $7,000 saved. Again, it wasn't that much. So they were like, "Oh, okay. Well, then you just pay us $7,000 cash, and then we'll take care of the rest with these things and these loans." And I was like, "Well, but I have to get to the college, right?" I lived in New Mexico and I was going to Nashville, so I did not actually end up paying them $7,000. I ended up getting a loan for that, so that I could buy a flight and mail my stuff and things like that. So anyway, so I did do my best to kind of save and make sure I was paying attention to the things that I needed to buy for. That was true for all of my training. If you are someone, especially if you're going into the medical field, there are a lot of random fees that come up. There's all the fees for like interviewing, for sending in your applications, cost things, getting like a nice suit. Then other things come up like getting a white coat, if it's not paid for by your school, getting stethoscope, getting like otoscope, all of these different like materials and things, and then getting clothes that are appropriate for the hospital because they wouldn't let you wear like open toed or sleeveless or all these different, they have all these different restrictions. So there's a lot of things that kind of add up over the years, and solely saving for just to go to school was not really realistic. So I think it's important to always keep in your mind that you are saving, but make sure you talk to upperclassmen and people who have gone before you to ask about what other things you're going to have to be paying for in the coming years, because there's a lot more than you think. So first, save. So the second thing I did was stayed dedicated, right? I did whatever I could to kind of decrease the cost of going to school. Now, I could have gone to college for free. I could have gone to my state school for college. But for the medical field, where you went to school actually makes a big difference. Who you know, who you're like, how important the school sounds, how well it's accredited within the country, all of that stuff matters. It matters quite a bit and can actually work in your favor quite a bit if you get into a better school. So instead of going for free to my state school, I actually did choose to go to Vanderbilt for college. Again, just because it's a better school, and I figured I would have better opportunities going forward to get into a decent med school. So from the get go, just stay dedicated, do whatever you can to decrease costs. One really simple thing is to literally just ask Vanderbilt, hey, what can you do for me? The sad truth was my parents were single. We're two income households. They had separated, and both of them factored into my schooling. So I really thought, like, me and my mom, oh, she's a single mom, I will get put on like financial aid and stuff like that. But I was disqualified from financial aid. But make sure you're looking into things, ask lots of questions to anyone you can that's in financial situations. So I could not get help that way, but I could get it through scholarships. So that was step three. These are all pre going to school. First, I saved, then I made sure I stayed dedicated, seeing where I could cut costs, and then where it made sense to cut costs. Some of those costs didn't make sense. And then three, getting scholarships. So applied to so many scholarships, lots of essays, lots of explain why you're worth this, lots of some of them are just like tell us who you are, right? Like, and you really got to get creative because there are like websites that'll say like here all the scholarship lists. If you have a grandparent that is Native American, apply to that, right? Like some of them are really not that hard. So just make sure you're going to delve into what are some good scholarships that I can get. They're not always that much. There was a lot that were like $200. I'm like, how is this $200 going to help me? I need 30,000, right? Like, but don't discredit the small amounts because sometimes those will cover things that, again, that you weren't thinking about, like nailing your keyboard to your dorm room or something like that. Okay. So those were the pre things that I did. Those are the first things that I did before I even got the loan. So then I went to school and really kind of lucked out quite a bit. So the one thing that I did do was I really stayed dedicated when I was in school. I really stayed on top of my grades and I really made sure that I was doing well in school, which sounds dumb, but it actually helped me out a lot. So for the first year, I had, I don't know, like 9,500 in scholarships. And the next year, Vanderbilt actually decreased my what was owed because I was doing so good with my grades. They're like, "Oh, here you go. You're doing great. You owe us $250 this year." So staying on top of what you're doing, sometimes you get these weird discounts that you weren't even really thinking about, especially if you're on like a dean's list or something like that. That can actually help you. So keep that in mind. So I actually went from what, probably like $120,000 for college, probably ended up with maybe $20,000 of scholarships. Like it was a big $15,000 of loans. Sorry. So like 120 to like 15,000. So I had a big difference. I didn't get all of the money that I should have had to get in loans. I did not have to, just because of these three things. Okay. So, med school was a completely different story entirely, right? There's not a lot of scholarship opportunities for med school, and this one is just plain expensive. Again, my state school and Vanderbilt were the same, so it really didn't matter. I was gonna have to pay a lot of money, and it was gonna be probably like $150,000 total for school. That was just in the back of my mind. That's how it's going down. People say if you're going to get a job where you can make at least that much money in your first year out, then it's worth it to get that much in loans. The problem is nowadays loans like what students are paying now is almost double that. So I don't know that that's a clear cut way to think about it. But again, if you are planning ahead, staying on top of it, and making good financial decisions, I think it's still going to be possible. I.e., it's going to take you longer probably, but it's still going to be possible to do well financially and get them paid off. There's a lot of good programs and stuff now too to kind of help you pay them off. So when I went to medical school, I was supposed when I finished medical school, I was supposed to consolidate my loans. That's what everyone always said to do. Consolidate your loans, put them all together in one thing, and then you can pay them off. And you can do income-based repayment, right? You're not making a lot of money now, but you'll make more later, so you'll pay more later. That's what everyone around me kept telling me to do, which made sense at the time, except for the fact that I had just gotten sick. Okay. So my best laid plans got super, super screwed up because I got meningitis right after I graduated from medical school. And so now I've got my medical school loans, my college loans, and $80,000 worth of medical bills. Yay. And I don't have a job because they won't let me go. Yay. So and it's time to consolidate my loans. And I literally, guys, I could not fill out that application right to save my life. I tried writing it out. I tried doing it online. I tried calling the people to get help. I could not get the consolidation paperwork done. They kept sending it back saying it was wrong. Something about my brain injury. I don't know. Executive function. It's hard. So I gave up on that. So I never consolidated my loans. I had the 8 separate loans and I just decided to pay them off one at a time. So realistically, there's 2 different ways that you can pay loans off. You can pay the one with the lowest interest amount, or you can pay the one with the lowest amount first. And a lot of people say to go with the lowest interest amount. They were pretty similar. Honestly, they were all about 5, 6%. So it wasn't like one was ginormously different. But in terms of the amounts, one was ginormously different because if you recall, I had a $250 loan for doing so well my first year of school. So I wrote a check for that one and it was done. And then I had 7 left and I just paid them off the smallest amount first. Now, the way to think about this is this took me what? I had a goal to pay my loans off in 10 years, but then I got sick. I've got all these medical bills. I don't really think I'm going to make it. So I think the one thing to be that's really important to keep in mind is to be realistic. Again, a lot of financial people tell you to just cut out your Starbucks and avocado toast, and it's going to make every difference in the world. And I think when it comes to something like loans, something that you're not going to pay off in a year, something that's going to take you like 10 to 15 years to pay off, even when you're sending crazy high payments. I think it's really important to be realistic. And that was really true about the budget, the new budget that I made for myself after I got sick. I had to send money to pay for medical bills, and then I had to send money to pay for student loans. So I made a schedule, I made a budget for myself that included things like going to the doctor and getting counseling because I was doing that so regularly. It included what protein shakes and what was I ate a lot of ice cream, honestly. I'd lost like 15 pounds. I could not fit any of my clothes. So it included things like trying to get my health back together, even though, if you're trying to make a really strict budget, that's maybe not the best goal. But I think you have to be really realistic about your loans budget. It's not the most important thing in the world to pay it off in a year. It's not necessarily going to change your life all that much. So, anyway, I would just encourage you to be realistic about it. Make a budget that you can stick to for the next decade. And then you can try and pay it off quicker than that, but make something that's realistic. Don't sit there and say, I'm never getting a pedicure and I'm never going out to dinner with my friends for the next decade. That's a surefire way to, make your life really miserable for no good reason and really not make that big of an impact on your hundreds of thousands of dollars of student loans anyway. So anyway, make a 10-year budget that you can live on. You will need clothes and travel and emergency funds. So do not spend every single dime you have on your loans and act like nothing else bad is going to ever happen. That's so true for me. Again, I owed a lot to medicine and then had to do a lot of follow up appointments, a lot of like trial medications and supplements, and a lot of new workups and things. So again, medicine took up a lot of my funding the first couple of years. But in spite of that, and in spite of the fact that I felt like I had gotten set back so much that I was never going to pay off my loans, really wasn't that bad, but clearly it felt like it. I still finished paying off my loans in 10 years. The truth of the matter is, every month I didn't get to pay an extra amount. Some months I had some kind of big bill that was due, or celebrated my birthday or something like that, and didn't use some months I didn't give quite as much to putting extra toward my loans as others. But I did make sure that it was at the forefront of my mind. If I got a check for a birthday or got a bonus or anything like that, how much of this can I put toward getting rid of this heavy burden that I'm kind of carrying? And I think it's really important to keep in mind that you need to forgive yourself when you blow it, when you spend money that you were gonna give to loans or you were going to use to pay off your debt. It's okay. Like, just forgive yourself. I was really hard on myself. But again, ended up putting myself on a budget that I like couldn't live on and had to redo because life is complicated sometimes. So forgive your hiccups. Be diligent, but not perfect. And you're still going to pay them off, even if you do so. Um, and then the last thing I'll talk about was why. Why did I even care about paying off my loans? Like, it's not like bad debt, right? It doesn't necessarily count against you. But again, I think of it as like a heavy burden that you have to bear when you're not paying off your loans and they actually start accruing interest. It is quite hard to pay them down unless you're paying significantly more than each year than the interest that you're accruing. So it really does feel like you're throwing money and the amount is getting bigger sometimes. So you really have to look at the big picture. Um, Interest will mess you up if you're not paying a significant amount to get your debts down. Um, and then, last, from my perspective, my faith is important to me. So, God instructed us not to keep debts. I was just reading Deuteronomy 14 today, and this is the chapter that talks about how you just pay off your debts every 7 years. If there's a mortgage, if there's a loan or any kind of slave or what have you, any kind of debt, you just like forgive it after 7 years. And how different would our lives be? Like, what do you think my mortgage company would say if I was like, hey, it's been 7 years? It is time for you to let it go. It's a little bit of a different world, fine, but wow, that would be crazy. But anyway, so we don't live under those restrictions, but I think the concept is important and is obviously biblical. God was saying that you didn't want to be a slave to a lender. You didn't want to constantly be paying off something for your entire life. That's not a good way to live. It's a heavy burden. It's limiting to how you can dream, how you can grow, how you can move forward. And it's not something that God really wanted for his people. For the Israelites, God was really laying out for them in the Bible, like, this is my best for you. And my best for you is if you work in these ways, if you follow these instructions, and if you live in the land that I've given you, I'm going to bless you. I'm going to make you fruitful. You're going to multiply. You're going to create new things. You're going to work new jobs. You're going to get to live the lives that you didn't get to live as slaves in Egypt. And uh, really gives them the opportunity to grow and become the best version of themselves. And I think that's one of the main reasons that it was so high on my list of things to do. It was one of my main financial goals to pay off my loans because it gives me the freedom to be able to go do more missions work and more trips like you I've got in my pictures in the background. It gives me the freedom to do more with my money now. And it gives me the freedom to kind of think about money and have and feel like I have power over the decisions that I'm making, as opposed to feel like I'm throwing money in a direction that's never benefiting me and will never go away, right? So I think it's important to make sure that you're keeping paying off your loans. Really important priority. I know they've got PSLF now, and that kind of helps out a lot with paying off med school loans. Um, and yeah, those are the main things I wanted to chat about today. So I hope that is helpful. Let me know what other questions you have, or if you've paid off some loans and kind of want to share your thoughts below. I'd love to hear it. And we'll keep chatting about what is God's best for you financially. How do we live our lives successfully, but not arrogantly, right, as Christians? And how do we grow and really learn to use God's resources best? So follow along, subscribe for more if you'd like to keep following. Thanks. Bye.